Okay, we're here with Patrick Miller and Manny. And Manny, what's your last name? Gallegos. And, well, maybe you could describe who you are and who Manny is and what we're doing today, if you could.
Well, today's topic is going to be Los Angeles critical mass, and last month I think sort of marked a turning point. Critical mass has been sort of going through a lot of changes lately. One of the big things that we saw last month was that a lot of people sort of fed up by the presence of the police decided to start alternative rides, and so we saw several rides pop up. And this has been kind of like an ongoing, so this was sort of a new turning point in critical mass in Los Angeles, where the ride has kind of fractured due to the presence of the police. And it's kind of been about 5 or 6 months coming. And the reason the police decided to have a continuing involvement in the ride is because some officers got out of control in May and were kicking cyclists on the critical mass, and this was captured on video. The videographer was tackled by the police. He uploaded the video to YouTube, and to great embarrassment to our new police chief and the police department. And so they decided to have sort of an active presence on every critical mass since then. So I thought a great way to start this show would be to talk to Manny, known as Manny's Car Wash on Midnight Riders. And,
Morning.
He's here in the studio right now. So Manny, could you just, tell us your side of like what happened and, what happened that night on critical mass, just like even before and then leading up to when you got tackled by the cops.
Okay. Well, it was, normal critical mass. I believe that night there was about 400 or so to 500 riders. We had just finished, I think, most of the ride, and we were, headed to Hollywood and Highland, where we usually do our COD.
This was a little bit bigger than a normal critical mass, right? Because of the BP oil spill?
Yes. It had attracted extra people. So, yeah, it was, normally a critical mass before the incident was attracting about 500, 600 people. So we were at probably maxed out about 600 people. And after doing, a couple of the protests that we did at the gas stations, like I said, we headed up towards Hollywood and Highland, where the Circle of Death was performed. And as we were leaving, a few officers a couple of officers actually started threatening riders to hit them with their batons, and I seen them trying to poke their batons in their in riders' wheels, and one of them threatened to hit me. I just went around him, and unfortunately the rider behind me, who apparently was a 16-year-old kid, he was threatened by him and stopped. And when he did that, they yanked him off his bike and started manhandling him. Of course, I grabbed my phone, started recording, and that's when the officer, not the one that had got the kid, but the partner, he's the one that threw a kick at one of the front wheels of one of the riders, actually hitting the wheel but not causing him to fall over. He would have caused great harm otherwise. And of course, I protested against their actions, which I guess caused an officer to come behind me and tackle me from behind. My phone fell out of my pocket, and you can see in the video how they come over and start stomping on me, and I'm giving contradicting directions: get up, get down. And thankfully it was all caught on video, and I was apprehended for 45 minutes to an hour, and then I was released, cited out, and went home, uploaded the video. Well, actually, no, we still went to we had the People's Ride after that, and the People's Ride.
Out of jail, straight back to another bike ride.
Yeah, pretty much. And so we went to the People's Ride, and that was pretty bad as well, because they chased us all over town the cops were chasing us all over town, all the way to, I think, from Hollywood all the way to downtown. They finally dropped off in downtown, and then we headed back to Echo Park.
So they got to be in their bonnet at some point, and because the police, I mean, critical mass is how long been going on in Los Angeles, like 12, 13 years at least?
Yeah, something like that.
And usually the interaction with the police is pretty mellow.
Yeah, I mean, I've done critical mass for several years. I started writing avidly in probably 2008. So since then, I've been 2 years of nonstop. I hadn't missed any critical masses, and unfortunately, this happened. And I say unfortunately, but at the same time, fortunately, because it has attracted some attention to the ride, and we have more riders now, more interaction with other riders from all sorts of lives.
Yeah, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about that later, how when the police decided to join critical mass, the numbers swelled from a normal 250 to 400, on a big night 600, to now being in the 1,000 to 1,500 to sometimes I'm pushing 2,000 range of a lot of people that, I mean, I met kids that bought their first bike and bought it to ride on critical mass.
Exactly, yeah, and that's one thing that I think one positive aspect that has come out of this incident, that we've had people from all walks of life come over and start riding with us. I've seen people who, not to downgrade Midnight Riders at all, but they have never even heard of it. They just heard of critical mass and they wanted to join, and they're and they've been joining us now. We have, like I said, kids and adults of all ages. I mean, I met an elder man not too long. I think it was 2 critical masses ago. He was 75, riding with us, and that's amazing. That's I think one positive aspect that did come from it. As far as the police behavior that night when I was attacked, that's it's being dealt by the right authorities. In case anybody is curious of what's going on with the case, I believe it's moved on from just an investigation, and it's as far as I know, it's out of the investigators' hands. So it's moved on forward from there.
So it's still going. Have you had any court dates regarding the incident?
Nothing yet. We're still waiting for a response from. Actually, just the outcome of this internal affairs investigation, which, like I said, has moved on from just an investigation, and there are several allegations outstanding.
And what about the charges against you?
I still have to go to court. Yeah, for that, I have to go face the. I was cited for running a red light because apparently, the officer claims to have seen me running a red light
conveniently while you were standing on your. In the street filming them next to your bike, and then they said you ran a red light, some other previous...
Yeah, even though I seen them arrive to the location as we were already leaving the corner, which they claim I ran a red light, and so that was cited for that, and then a vehicle code that does not exist, a failure to obey the rules of the road or something.
Wow. For everyone who's interested, I just bumped up the thread that Manny started the morning after his incident on Midnight Riders. If you go to midnightrides.com, that's spelled RIADZZ. Yeah. R Midnight Riders. Just Google it. There's and if you go to the forums on the left-hand side, should be right up at the top. It says police brutality on LACM, and you can see Manny's video there.
Yeah, and like I said, thankfully they got a lot of hits, and they got some media coverage as soon as that happened. Unfortunately, the death of the what was it, coach or somebody, that kind of took over the media, and we didn't get the exact type of response that we wanted. But like I said, just from the exposure that we got a great turnout at Critical Mass now. So like I said, at least that's one positive aspect of this whole incident.
And stayed high, the turnout?
Yeah, the turnout has stayed high. The question was, has the turnout stayed high? And so far, up to last month, where well, the weather and also all this controversy of what's going on with the officers joining us in the ride did trickle down the numbers to I'd say about 600 to 800, something like that.
Yeah, it was kind of a perfect storm, right? Because the incident with you happened in May, and then right after that, we're kind of going into the summer with just absolutely outstanding weather, a lot of kids out of school, and
that's right.
I mean, instantly the numbers kind of doubled, and then at the June ride, the police said that they were going to come out, and so a lot of us were advocating. Joe Borfo, who hopefully we'll get to talk to later today, was a really strong advocate for just doing a civic mass, following all the rules, and just really encouraging everybody to follow the rules because, just not to give the police an excuse to ticket people. But instead, the police decided to cork all the intersections and treat the bike ride like a parade, which for the people that came out, I mean, made for like a really fun ride. But it kind of sent a mixed message. But that ride was so fun, and it was. I remember a lot of people saying it was the funnest ride that they'd been on all year.
Yeah, I mean that one ride right after the incident was a really good ride. Even though there was a few aspects of it, that I didn't like. They were corking the lights, yet they never allowed us to stop the ride for everybody to catch up, splitting us up into 3 groups or 4 groups that were lost all over downtown LA. But it was a great turnout, and everything turned out well. That night I don't remember seeing a lot of citing, any citations being issued, as opposed to the ride that followed after that, where every other block you see a rider getting cited, as well as of confrontations between the bike riders and the motorcycle officers, and just the other officers in general.
Well, I had spoke to Sergeant Krumer from LAPD, who is sort of their bicycle liaison, and he said that there was only 2 arrests that night, and as far as I know, no citations. And the 2 arrests were late into the ride, and they were for graffiti. So they really had made an active decision to not, chase after kids that looked like they might be under 18 and weren't wearing a helmet, or somebody whose blinky fell off their bike, or somebody who rode with the mask through a red light. Like, they had made an active decision not to ticket for any of those things.
Yeah, and I think that should be the way that they can join us. I think that should be the way that they should be joining us in the ride, because the other approach they had did not work. When they were citing everybody, that was a sad sight.
Well, what we saw in the following months after June is the police started to sort of modify their approach, and starting in September, they decided to do just the opposite, which is to cite for any possible infraction that they saw, and they gave out about 50 tickets that night.
Yeah, and like I said, some of those citations were not justified, as I was a witness to a few of them where, the light was still yellow, and riders, proceeded to, just like they should, proceeded to enter the intersection, and then the officers said, no, hey, we told you to stop, pull over, and then they would pull them over and cite them, even though they had not ran any red lights. So... it's hopefully the last ride, like I said, was actually even was just as good as the one before, due to it actually, like I said, the last ride was actually good. The ride kept together. I didn't see a lot of citing going on by the officers, so I think in the last ride it seemed like they were back to their being nice, or to I'm not sure how to describe it, but to collaborating with us instead of working against us.
Well, one of the other things that was unique about last month's ride is that a route was given to the police, and a number of us had been, having meetings with the cops since this whole incident started, since you got tackled. Yeah. And at every single meeting, they would say, "Hey, we can facilitate the ride, we can cork for you, we can do all this stuff," or as they like to call it, they can guard the lights. But they said, this is, to do this, we really need to have a route. We need to know where you guys are going because it's going to take us less resources. And everybody involved, kind of said, well, according, the way critical mass has sort of worked historically, we don't give a route to the cops. We don't typically have a route because we don't have a leader, and there's nobody that has the authority to designate a route and give you a route. And so that's just how we ride. A few people took it upon themselves to give the police a route. They made sort of a parade type of thing, and they corked all the intersections. And the people that went on that ride apparently had a really great time. I was on one of the alternative critical masses, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's actually also a positive thing to have alternative rides because, as you said, some of the some of us avid riders who do a lot of midnight riding, they don't want to participate in a ride where you're being guarded by the police. I mean, even a lot of people asked me that night, "What are you doing here? If there's all these other rides you can join?" And unfortunately, I love the fact that you go to critical mass and you meet people who you don't see at rides every day. You do meet people from all kinds of people who are just curious, like you said, people who buy their first bike just to go on critical mass, that type of people, which is and I like to encourage them, and I like to talk to all of them because when I went to critical mass, I met a lot of riders who told me their bike riding stories, and that got me even more into bike riding. So I'm just doing the same.
Well, throughout this show, we're going to listen to some clips from a video that you can watch on Google Video. It's called We Are Traffic. It's a 50-minute video, and we're going to hear some clips, and there's a lot of great interviews with the founders of Critical Mass, and talk about, actually, they've gone through a lot of this stuff 13 years ago, and it's amazing. I watched it again this morning, and it's amazing how many of the same kind of, discussions and problems that are just kind of inherent, to the ride, all these challenges that they were facing. So right now we're going to listen to a little clip from We Are Traffic, and this talks about the beginnings of the critical mass.
It was crashed.
I think it was all about, can we get some people to come out and be together and actually meet up at the same time in the same place. That alone was who knows, maybe they'll come, maybe they won't. Maybe we'll come, maybe we won't, we didn't really know.
I mean, we just talked about it for a long time, and then Chris started handing out some flyers on 7th and Market, and we started making more propaganda pieces, and we started the Commute Clot in September of 1992. And it was a commute clot for a couple of months at about 30, 40, 50, 60 riders each month, somewhere in there. And then we saw the movie Return of the Scorcher. And the name had to become Critical Mass. Scene in there is about the bike riding in China.
Buses, taxi cabs, and motorcycles coming through intersections with no traffic lights. And this kind of innate ability that they've developed over time to make that work. But there were rules operating under the surface that worked very well. It was a kind of critical mass thing where all the cyclists would pile up and then go. All the cyclists going, say, turning left in an intersection would wait in the middle until they had enough numbers to force through the cars and make them stop.
And as soon as they reached what this interviewee had called critical mass, then the bikes went through. And that just captured the spirit perfectly. So it became critical mass right then.
Well, first off, critical mass was just created as a social space. There was no real objective except to ride home together. But a lot of times you did a circuitous route and you just enjoyed people's company. And that was the whole thing. You got to keep the ride fun or people aren't going to keep returning. So you don't want this political dogma to wear people down. You just want to make it fun, and whoever wants to bring their political dogma and have their political dogma subset group did it.
There isn't a commercial interest. There isn't any one group that critical mass is trying to appeal towards. I think the fact that it's done this has really helped it be inclusive, that there is no other requirement than that you bring a bike, which is probably one of the most simplest things around.
Yeah, cruiser power.
Yeah, totally. Single speed, love it.
You're not contributing to buying oil or gasoline, and so, you're making a statement about that. It's part of the environmental movement, again, because you're not using a car and you're not polluting the earth. You're not contributing to paving and destroying the environment that way. I find it very empowering because you're sort of taking back territory and you're reclaiming part of public property that usually isn't yours because bikes are so forgotten when it comes to the street. It's like a Take Back the Night March for me. You're like reclaiming this territory that singly by yourself alone, which is usually the way that I ride by myself, that's not my space. I feel afraid. I get harassed. I am not welcome there. And, that's what bicycling and critical mass represent for me.
So I think in terms of fine-tuning the experience, it was about what can we do to maximize our safety as we do this rather unusual thing, fill the streets with bikes, which led me right away to say, well, the red lights are obviously not relevant to us, other than if you come up to a red light, you better stop. But if you come up to an intersection and you enter it and the light turns red, the safe thing to do is for the bikes to stick together. And so there was a whole concept of trying to stick together and hold the density of the mass together and to protect us from the side traffic, which is where the whole corking concept started.
So we're here on BikeTalk. Yeah, let's see if this works. Hello? Oh.
Can you hear us? Oh. Hello. Well, we're here on BikeTalk. I think we just hung up on Roadblock. No? Okay, well, we got a new awesome patch line.
Hey.
Oh, Don's still on the line. Can you hear us?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, maybe we need to... Oh, can you hear us now better?
No.
How about now? No?
Okay.
No.
Well, we're on the line with Roadblock
Now I can hear you.
from Midnight Riders, and we'll just have to pass the phone around. We're just talking today about the current state of critical mass, and Roadblock. We just wanted to hear kind of what your thoughts are on everything that went down last month with all the different rides, with the cops getting a route, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I didn't actually go on the ride last month, other than I met up with some of the folks that did the separate rides from Critical Mass. I had talked to one of the youngsters who his name's Edson, and he's the one that gave the route to the LAPD. I've been in touch with the LAPD through the LAPD Bike Task Force, and was invited to that because of the fact that the LAPD wanted to get in touch with some of the ride leaders of the community. So myself and Joe Borfo and some others were on that panel, I think, before the police first started escorting the ride. And one of the things that they have wanted from day one was they wanted a route, because that's just how the police deal with parades, and how parades are, I mean, in their mind, Critical Mass is a parade, so they want it to be more of an organized parade. And we resisted. We didn't give them a route, and the first month they dealt with it, and it went pretty good the first month, but they've they've since been wanting a route every time critical mass comes up. They ask for a route, and I think they finally got to the point where they're like, okay, if they don't give us a route, we're going to just start ticketing and causing confusion and so forth. And as you guys all know, that ride before last month, they gave out a bunch of tickets, and it was kind of they definitely had their influence on the ride, and from their point of view, it was getting chaotic. I mean, the 2,000 kids that showed up were we would have these stops, and it would just be mayhem at the intersections and wherever we stopped, which was like sometimes near an AM, PM or something. Be a lot of kids trying to get in there, and it just was getting chaotic. So I think what happened last month, actually, I'm kind of okay with it. It's like, I think most of the kids that ride on that ride, they're youngsters, they're teenagers, they don't necessarily know about what critical mass is supposed to be, and the thing is that giving the cops the route made the cops happy, and they didn't ticket anybody that I know of. Did anybody hear of tickets getting handed out last month?
I haven't. Oh, there was one ticket?
There was only one citation that I know. This is Manny Don.
Hey, Manny.
Hey, how you doing? And apparently somebody was riding on the wrong side of the road, and that's the only citation I heard of all night.
Well, so the police, LA Critical Mass was sold out to the police. They gave them a route, and the people that weren't happy with that, they started their own alternate critical masses, and that is cool too, because the more groups riding at the same time in the same general area, the more visibility bike riders have. And I think over time, people will probably get tired of being escorted by the police. It's fun for a minute, but then it's like you feel like you're, cattle or something. I don't know, but so. I think after a while that the police escorted critical mass is going to melt into a smaller ride, and I think some of these satellite rides are going to get bigger, maybe big enough that the cops will start paying attention to those rides. Who knows? But
in 13 years.
In 13 years? I don't know if it's going to be 13 years. I'd say more like 13 months.
Well, I'm just saying that I think the cops sort of ignored critical mass for about 13, 15 years, however long it's been going on in Los Angeles. I mean, it's not like the cops never had an interaction with critical mass, but
critical mass was so tiny. It was like 40 people or something for 13 years.
But for the last 4 or 5 years, it's been hovering between 100 and 400 people.
Sure. And then it started to get massive, though. It was starting to get like 700 or 800 people. And they were doing the Circle of Death, and, then we did that protest at the BP gas station over there on the west side. Started to, make some noise and get the attention of the cops, And then when Manny got tackled and beaten for filming another cop, kicking a bike rider, that's when it just got a little too out of control, too much press. So the cops had to do something. They had to save their own faces, and they also had to deal with the fact that critical mass was pretty huge.
Well, I think one of the things that's really interesting about critical mass, because of its viral nature, it really does also belong to the public and to the mass media and to the police to a certain extent, because what we saw with the attention that it got from the mass media and also the attention that it got from the police, it actually made the ride, I don't know, I would say even possibly quadruple in size, right?
Yeah, when the cops got involved, I mean, there was that, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. When the cops got involved and they started posting on, on Midnight Riders that they were going to come out, I think that hyped up a lot of kids. Like, I think a lot of kids wanted to go see what was going to happen, especially after, after everything that happened with Manny. And the media got that story wrong, too. They were showing the video of that cop kind of kicking at the bike rider, which, that was wrong. But what was really wrong was what they did to Manny, and the media never really emphasized that. So Manny was only filming, and when the cops discovered him filming, they ran after him and tackled him, stomped his phone, beat him. You can see from the video that it was pretty rough. But the media never really, of course the media got it wrong. So
there's kind of this moment on that video that kind of reminds me of The Simpsons, where like after they tackle Manny and his phone is laying on the ground, lens face up, and then the cop leans over to turn it off, and it's almost funny at the end of that video.
Yeah, I think a cop actually stomped on the phone, right, Manny?
Some people say it appears. I've gone frame by frame, and it kind of seems like it. I've dropped my phone, thousands of times and never broke. This one time, it just right after that, my phone, the screen was broken into pieces. So I would, there's also a video that was filmed from across the street by an ATM.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I was shown some pictures during, during part of an interview with one of the police officers in order to identify the other police officers that were involved in the incident.
Yeah.
And that video should have captured everything. So, who knows if we'll ever get to see that or not. Unfortunately, like you said, the issue is not so much that the officer kicked the bike rider in order to kick him down, but the issue that they tackled me and then they came over and stomped on me, which, I remember I even spoke to you the day after when we had the bike beta, and I wasn't even aware that I had gotten kicked. I went to talk to some of the witnesses.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to go talk to some of the witnesses that saw the incident and said, oh, yeah, we saw the bike rider get tackled, and then they started kicking him. And then I went back to review the video, and yeah, you can actually see where I'm getting stomped on and kicked.
Now, did they provide that ATM? You said that you could see some of the frames from that ATM video?
They showed me only one when I'm in handcuffs, already surrounded by all the officers. During the handcuffing, detaining process, they were harassing me the whole time. And so they were around me harassing me. And that's the picture.
So the ATM video, that needs to be made public, and it's funny how they worked. It seemed like they worked to get that ATM video, and usually, in the case of like a hit and run or something like that, it's like, oh, we can't get the video.
Exactly.
Somehow this time, they can get the video.
Yeah, I mean, it takes when their name is on the line, then they go ahead and go the extra step to get these videos. But how many of our riders have we heard of that have suffered a hit and run or
stolen bike or something?
A stolen bike, or even just a citation where you're not at guilt, and those videos can't be obtained.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, anyways, so I hope your case comes to a good resolve, man, because that was definitely just wrong. So, to the LAPD's credit, the people that they've assigned to critical mass, like Sergeant Krumer and Gordon Helper and Villegas, Sergeant Villegas, or Captain Villegas, I forget what he is, but they all seem like real good guys, decent guys. So the LAPD went and put some of their good faces forward, and they've been really patient, I think, with critical mass, but at the same time, they've always wanted to kind of tame critical mass and bring it under control. So last month they did get what they wanted, and in exchange they apparently didn't give anybody citations. So that's the trade.
I definitely agree with you that a lot of the individuals that we see from the LAPD are just really outstanding, and I'm actually we're going to try and get Sergeant Krumer on the phone today. But as an organization, I just think that they don't really understand viral culture like this, and they just don't understand, what the nature of this thing is, and so it's been really difficult for them. It's like
but you have to give them.
To a gorilla.
You got to see it from what they're. I know what you're saying. They from their point of view, when they see 1,000 people in the streets, that equals potential chaos or protest in their minds. And it's true. Critical mass was misbehaving at times. There was the circle of death. There's going through the lights. To them, that's not acceptable. So how do you address it from the police? Because they're beholden to the public at large. And we know that a lot of the people in the public don't like critical mass. There's a lot of people that do, but there's also a lot of car drivers that don't. And so they're dealing with complaints from the public too.
They probably deal with a few. I would say 99% of the people in the city don't know about critical mass one way or the other. The people that are on the same side of the street like it less, and the people that are on the other side of the street like it a lot more. Like, the people on the opposite side of the street are always smiling and waving. The people on the same side of the street,
there's a lot of people that do, but there's also a lot of people that are pissed, and there's also a lot of people on critical mass that do stupid shit like hit cars with their fists and stuff, or, ride in the wrong side of the traffic. You can't deny that. I mean, there's a lot of kids that do stupid shit on critical mass.
And I think you would agree with me that right prior to my incident, critical mass was getting a little out of hand. I mean, I think that's another reason why the numbers doubled with the police presence, because a lot of new riders felt safer coming out to the ride, and I know that for a fact because I invite a lot of people that I run into in the train, and they're intimidated to go to midnight rides, and especially they don't think it's safe, and with their presence, I think it did make it a little safer.
It was I've been on a few critical masses before the cops were there, and that one at BP was getting out of control. It seemed like a lot of the kids were there and they were taking advantage. I mean, that's what happens when a ride gets so massive. People start, they start taking advantage, taking cover in the mass, and they start doing silly stuff. Like, it was always pissing me off when people would, hit cars and things like that. And no one's perfect, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I've gotten pissed off at cars that try to drive through the mass, and it's hard not to do it, but we have to figure out a way to, if there was a way that everybody could just restrain themselves and be Gandhi about it, then I think we'd have a case to say the cops shouldn't be coming with us. But at this point, it's like that kind of chaos, the cops can't ignore it. Otherwise, they're going to hear it from, the city council or from members of the public.
Well, Roadblock, thanks a lot for your feedback on the current state of critical mass. Right now we're going to go to another segment from We Are Traffic that talks about when, about 13 years ago, when the SF, or actually, it was probably 16 years ago, but when the SFPD started to take notice of the San Francisco critical mass and insert a presence. So,
all right, take care, guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was great talking to you.
See you, man.
Bye.
Bye.
saw the immediate reaction like, what are these stupid bicyclists doing on the road? This is ridiculous.
Kind of ridiculous. I mean, waiting for traffic, trying to get through.
Mr. Jags, my opinions, I love it.
As far as the bikers messing up the city, no, lock them up, take away their bikes. No, can't break the law. It's not there. It's not. They don't own it, neither do the cars.
We just get a broad range of people, but I think by and large people liked us.
The second period of time was when the police got involved, and that was a big transition. As we were going up Market Street, somebody tried to push through the crowd in their car, and there was a confrontation. So when the police got involved, it changed everything, and the police got involved simply because of that confrontation. They decided to accompany the ride from then on.
When the cops showed up, they created this barrier, this membrane between the mass and the rest of the world. And what used to happen is we would pass out flyers to people going by to try to tell them what's going on and invite them to the situation. And what they did is they shut us off from the rest of the world. They made us into this kind of anomaly, this parade. And people perceived the situation also, which I thought was even worse, is that we wouldn't be safe unless the cops were there. That it was for our benefit. It was that there would be some horrendous collision or carnage if the police were not there. That we were incapable of creating safe streets by ourselves, which is completely untrue.
Hey, what's up, Cash?
Hey, they did this. I hold them fully responsible. Because there were cops, because they were angry, they made people angry. Because people got angry, somebody got out of hand.
That guy wasn't even out of hand.
What happened? Somebody got arrested.
He got arrested for making an illegal left turn. He was in the wrong lane and he pulled the turn.
Okay.
If you don't pick up the pace, you'll be issued a citation for impeding traffic. You better move on. You better move on.
I'm moving.
You're not fast enough. You better move on. You're impeding traffic. Then get out of the ride.
In the months before the July 97 ride that got so much national attention for the San Francisco critical mass, there were thousands of riders, and very few of those riders were activists, and very few of those riders knew what was happening with the rides. Very few of them had any information about how they could participate in guiding the rides in one way or another. It wasn't like the first few rides, the first dozen rides, where people brought flyers saying, this is what I think should happen in critical mass, and this is where we should go next time, and what do you think about this, and let's talk about that.
Since we don't really have a route tonight, how about a destination where we all meet at 8 o'clock? And I'm taking nominations for 8 o'clock destinations. Is that okay with everybody?
It takes being around the scene for a while to understand how to work like that, and that it's by cooperative methods rather than an authoritarian way. And it's so different from the way anything else is run that I think it's at once befuddling, but at another way it's really liberating.
If you go to the front of a critical mass ride during the period of 1994 through 1997, you would see all kinds of people who were not involved in organizing the rides, and had never even thought about how the rides were organized, didn't really ask themselves, why is it that the police are at the front of this ride? And when the police would zoom ahead to block the traffic for us, they would zoom ahead too. And those people weren't there for social activism and political activism, but ironically what made the event so powerful was that it attracted people into that feeling of non-commercial public event that was so exciting to be in, that was such a break from the usual scary streets of San Francisco or scary streets of whatever suburb they came from.
So you've been listening to a segment from We Are Traffic, the excellent documentary about the history of critical mass. And right now on the line I have Joe Borfo, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the LAACM that he hosted last Friday of last month during the last critical mass.
Hi there. How you doing, Patrick?
Pretty good. Hey, real quick, Joe, we're gonna Borfo, we're gonna try and test this new old technology we have here at the studio. So, am I supposed to hang up? Okay, I'm gonna try and hang up. Hopefully, I don't hang up on you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, how about now? Hello?
I think you have to keep it off.
Borfo, can you hear us?
Yeah, it's fuzzy, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we have a little bit of feedback happening. Oh, how about now? How does it sound?
That sounds good.
Excellent. Riding into the 21st century. So, Borfo, can you tell us a little bit? Well, I should let you know that I'm here with Manny's Car Wash.
How you doing, Joe?
Hi there.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you did last month and the ride that you hosted, the LA Alternative Critical Mass, what your intentions were and how you thought it went?
Sure. Well, let me first of all say that I've been riding with LA Critical Mass. I started in about 2005. That was my first LA Critical Mass when it was pretty small, around 20, 30 people, and I enjoyed myself. I thought it opened my eyes to cycling. It was the same time I discovered Midnight Riders. And also in my travels to different countries with my wife, I experienced what Critical Mass looks like, and in Chicago, I experienced Chicago Critical Mass. So I kind of got a feel of what it's like to see Critical Mass in different cities. So I've always supported the idea of Critical Mass, the idea of showing that we're traffic and that creating a good message to the public, showing that we can also ride on the streets and in a positive manner. And so I've had some good experiences with LA Critical Mass and other critical masses. And so yes, of course, things started to degrade in LA. I mean, it's good that there's large numbers of people riding and showing up, but of course there's also the aspect of people that are starting to use it to get away with things, causing trouble and getting aggressive with cars, which I think, frankly, is backfiring on the approach that we're trying to make to open people's minds to that we're traffic. So anyhow, I had been posting on different forums and even at the LA Critical Mass, trying to make some sort of attempts to change the direction of how, encouraging ideas of way to change. And I found a lot of resistance and at the same time a lot of support. But it happened to be at the same time the LAPD had announced that they wanted to start riding alongside with us, and so it kind of made it even a bigger obstacle of what I was going to try to accomplish. I wanted to try to encourage people to follow the rules more by staying on the right-hand lane, following the red lights. I mean, there's things that a lot of people do, but there's a lot of people who don't follow these ideals, and I feel it's kind of important because we're representing that we're traffic, and how can we be representing traffic if we're not riding like traffic does? So I wanted to try to encourage people to stop at all the red lights, even though it would kind of change the way the ride works, and that's what caused a lot of resistance, because obviously when you have a large group of people riding together and you stop at every red light, you're going to break up the ride. People are going to get scattered, and it's going to get kind of broken up quite a bit. My method for fixing that was to have everyone announce a destination at the beginning of the ride, saying, okay, where should we go? Let's go to Pan Pacific Park. Everybody knows how to get there pretty much. If you don't, ride with this group. If you want to ride fast, go first with the fast group. That was just kind of my idea. I was trying to pitch, but I need a little more help, and I didn't, I wasn't successful at it. So down the line, I decided, okay, let me break away from critical mass because tensions with the police are increasing. People are getting a lot of tickets. Why don't we try this vision, which I shared with a lot of other riders that, it's not just my vision alone, but I'm trying to be like the cheerleader behind this idea, which is to have many different rides happening at the same day of the third Friday, or the last Friday of the month, which is the Critical Mass Friday, and having people ride to an agreed destination. So these people would collaborate from different groups. They would start in different parts of the city. So this is the vision, basically. Imagine you're riding to a certain destination in the city, and you see another group of bicyclists riding on another street, passing by you and crisscrossing, but they're all following the rules of the road. And so it's basically, the whole city is full of cyclists riding around, and then they end up meeting up at the destination to regroup and rest and socialize a little bit, and then they'll announce another destination and ride to that. So you got this collaboration of different rides happening at the same time. Some people like to ride fast with one particular group. Some people like to ride slow, with their kids. All of which, though, are following the rules of the road, stopping at all the reds, staying on the right. And a lot of people roll their eyes at me when I say that, but the reason why I keep pushing for critical manners is because it's something that we need to start focusing on in all group rides. That's the Midnight Riders rides, and all rides, because we're riding in the streets. You got to behave like a car or a vehicle. I mean, we are a vehicle. We follow the vehicle code, so we need to demonstrate that. Going against that is only going to hurt us, and it's a constant struggle to try to train people who are just riding on the streets for the first time or stuff to encourage them to start following this idea. It's a gradual process, but you got to keep at it, and it's kind of like training. We got to train, all the riders in LA to try to stop at a red. It doesn't really hurt. You'll get to where you're going just as fast. Just like you see a car trying to book it and they ended up getting to a red. It's just the same as the cyclists do. Anyhow, the main point is that we have a destination that we go to, and the rides are smaller and broken up and start at different locations in the city, ends up meeting up at the same location. I think it makes it a lot more harmonious and at the same time dynamic, and people are on bicycles everywhere, crisscrossing. It's not chaotic because people are following the rules. It's a more effective critical mass. So that's my vision, and that's what I'm trying to push for. Unfortunately, this coming New Year's Eve, I'm going to be busy, so I won't be able to implement that for this critical mass again. But
not unfortunately.
I'm sorry.
Aren't you joining a lot of people that are going to San Francisco to go to that critical mass for New Year's Eve?
I'd like to go to that. There's going to be a bunch of people going to San Francisco for a good vacation, like a riders trip. There's talk about it on Midnight Riders' website. If anybody's interested in joining up, check it out. There's a thread about it. It's kind of funny. There's all kinds of letters. You on New Year's Eve, San Francisco Critical Mass, LA Alternative Critical Mass. So if you're interested in that, go up to San Francisco and enjoy the party.
So Borfo, it was very spontaneous, but this month there was quite a few posted rides that were alternatives to critical mass. Were you in touch with any of the other ride organizers, or did your ride converge with any of those other rides?
Yes, there was a few other rides that we met up with, and because I think they're on the same page. They're kind of fed up with having the police being such a overwhelming force. It kind of diffuses the. At the same time, I understand why the police are there. They're concerned about things getting out of control, but at the same time, it diffuses what critical mass does in a positive manner, is reaching to the public Some people think that it's good that the cops are riding alongside because it shows that, like, if the cops support this, then it's okay. But anyhow, the point was, the other groups that were doing other rides, we decided to meet up, and so that kind of followed that vision that I'm trying to promote. And I'm hoping that these other groups will continue doing that, and maybe other people from LA Critical Mass will kind of like that idea. I'm not trying to kill LA Critical Mass. I'd like to point that out. I think LA Critical Mass should stay the way it is for those who want to keep it the traditional way. But I'm trying to show that we can do it in a safe and more fun way, and an alternate method. So I'm just trying to show that there's other ways of doing this.
Well, one thing I like to point out is that Los Angeles has 10 times the geographic area of San Francisco.
Yeah.
So,
Patrick, can I ask you to change something with the voice, because I can barely hear you again.
Okay.
That's better.
Oh. Maybe just if I just go straight into
there
the phone.
There you go. That's great. Straight in the phone. Yeah, thanks.
So, what do you say to the idea that some people kind of think that our entire road infrastructure has been biased towards cars, and that maybe it's not so bad if bike riders want to safely run, slow down at a four-way stop instead of stop at a four-way stop, or if a group of 40 people want to make cars wait for 30 or 40 seconds while the back half of the group collects, and so that the group can stay together.
In a regrouping situation, well, I'm not sure if I quite got everything you said, but
I guess
in most cases, if cyclists are riding together to regroup on the right-hand side of the road, cars are able to pass on the left. If the car wants to make a right-hand turn and we're regrouping at a stoplight, that's they're gonna have to wait a little while until we go. But that's somewhat of an issue for cars. Some of the cars get impatient because we're a little bit slower. It's obvious that we're not going to be keeping the same pace that a car does on the street. But that's kind of a given.
Well, I guess what I want you to respond to is the idea that the bicycles should have to follow the letter of the law when the law and the entire infrastructure has actually been biased towards cars, artificially biased towards cars, to the type of infrastructure that we have is really designed for people. Even though we have the right to be on the road, the infrastructure really is designed for people driving these 2,000-pound vehicles.
I agree that the infrastructure is designed for cars, particularly in LA. There are ways to improve that.
We really appreciate your efforts and stepping forward on this, and it'll be really interesting to see how these alternative rides start to form. Everyone loves riding a bike with 2,000 people, but it's impossible to deny that this causes a certain amount of frustration with drivers, and sometimes in a karmic sort of sense, like some of us have to deal with that frustration later on when we're not with 2,000 people. So
think of it as an evolution. We'll still have 2,000 people riding on the same night, but we'll be scattered throughout the city, crisscrossing each other to get to a certain destination. I think that makes it more dynamic and interesting to the public and for ourselves.
And maybe that's the point of critical mass, to just have a city full of bikes eventually. Well, we got to let you go right now because we're expecting a call soon from Damian Newton from LA Streets Blog.
Sounds great.
But thanks a lot for calling in.
I'd also like to encourage you guys to continue talking about the importance of following the rules of the road and arguing that case, or if need be, because I think that's a really important thing we need to start focusing on group rides.
Thanks a lot for your input on that.
All right.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
So right now we're going to transition while we wait for Damien's call. We're going to transition into another segment from We Are Traffic. This one talks about Critical Mass supposedly making a deal with the city of San Francisco and how the media framed that discussion. So we're just going to go into that right now.
It started to be so interesting about what would happen at the next Critical Mass that it became the social highlight of what I was doing at the time. And it was great. It was wonderful to prepare for. It was magical when it was going on, and then you would think back about how great it was and what you could do next time to make it better or make it different or whatever.
And then a lot of different people began to participate in planning different routes and planning different ways of doing Critical Mass and having fun with it. And that went on pretty much unendingly all the way until early 97. And then you get through most of first part of 97, you get to June 97 when it goes to Sausalito, as it has generally gone year after year since about the third year. And apparently our mayor, Willie Brown, got stuck in traffic. So he made a very, threatening and inflammatory comment that led to a media frenzy in the boring middle news lull of the summer.
The media twisted our participation in that event as making a deal with the city on the route of Critical Mass. And that was a complete lie. When the headlines hit the papers, the politicians needed somebody to represent Critical Mass so bad that they portrayed our board as representing Critical Mass.
It was not possible for the mayor to engineer what would happen with Critical Mass. How was he going to stop the ride? There just wasn't any way. There's no leadership. There's nobody you can convince to say, okay, don't bring your people out here to ride. And what were they going to do? Arrest everybody? There's just too many people to arrest everybody. And I realized that, and I think the bicyclists realized that, and eventually the mayor's office began to realize that. And then it was a scramble to save face.
And so that real vibrant sense of our independence was obviously under great threat in July. And we showed up down there bent on proving that we weren't answering to them or to anybody. That we were going to have Critical Mass like we'd always had it. We would go where we want to go, we would leave when we want to leave, and we would do what we want to do.
We had a very productive meeting the other day with the band meeting. We've agreed upon that the route tonight would start at 6:30. People would agree to stay on the designated route. There's been a lot. The designated route is going to start at 6:30. A couple of notes about the route tonight. First of all, and this is your route.
They started welcoming us to our own Critical Mass. What a joke.
So then Martel gets done with his speech, and then the mic becomes open through some weird mismanagement, and people start going up there and talking, and then this guy got up there, and I was ringing my bell and going, come on you guys, we voted on our ride, let's go, shring shring, and they would just not budge. And so I'm like, Jiminy, so I hear different people going on. I'm like, man, it's an open mic.
Say no to the police route. The quick drive from the transmitting terminal. Save them.
Get everybody to ohm together. Have a moment of silence. Do something where everyone can agree. Be nice to one another beforehand. You have such power to... All right.
We're going to all start singing together. One big long ohm, maybe something peaceful, something altogether joyful perhaps.
No, get out of here. And it's like, get up the day. And I'm like, oh my God, come on, we got this energy and you want to sing a song, which is beautiful in its own way, but it just wasn't the moment,
I would like to say that we've had a vote, and I think that you guys need to wake up to something, and that is that Critical Mass is not about the police. Yeah. It's about bicyclists. Yeah. And if we are on a route that we chose, we have right to do that. We will not have to worry about facilitation if you take responsibility for intersections. You stop if you're worried about getting ticketed. It's not beyond your reach. We voted on it, so let's get out of here and ride our ride.
They said, let's go right now. And everybody just stood there. Oh, what do we do now? And they wouldn't leave. Because a lot of us were agitating very hard for that in the crowd. But there was this dynamic of passivity. You put a stage out in front of people with a sound system, they're going to stand there and stare at it until they're told to leave.
In about 10 minutes, you're going to start a typical San Francisco event. You're going to move around the city. You're going to enjoy yourself. And you're even going to tolerate those who don't want to hear others speak. I'm delighted that the bicyclists of San Francisco sat down with the city and with themselves for the purpose of putting together a program that will consistently make San Francisco the most livable city in the country. I hope you can follow the route. I hope my officers and all others who are assisting, including your monitors, will be as effective as they need to be. Have a good ride.
Uncanny timing. Uncanny timing here.
Hello? Yeah, hi. You're kind of breaking up, but it's Matthew from Santa Monica Critical Mass.
Sorry, we got it. Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, this is BikeTalk.
Yeah, hi. This is Matthew from Santa Monica Critical Mass.
Great.
We got kind of a bad connection.
Yeah, sorry, the phone. You want to do the magic on the phone?
Do I have to do magic?
All right, Matthew, can we call right back?
Yeah.
All right, can you
call back?
Can you call right back?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Dicey. Well, sorry about that. We're having a few little technical difficulties here. We have an awesome phone here in the studio, which reminds me of my childhood. I was born in 1971, and it's kind of the phone that I grew up with. But it's a little static. So we just had a call from Matthew from the Santa Monica Critical Mass, and he's going to call us back right now, hopefully. I guess we could star 69 him. So there he is. So you were just listening to a segment from We Are Traffic, and that's the documentary, the excellent documentary about critical mass that you can find on Google Video. Another one that I really recommend is Still We Ride. And Still We Ride is a really cool documentary, which is actually specifically about the New York critical mass and what happened after the Republican National Convention in 2000. Was it 2000? Yeah, the Republican National Convention in 2000, and shortly after that, the police started cracking down. I mean, well, there was sort of a pretty paranoid state with the cops around New York City for the Republican National Convention, and part of that was cracking down on critical mass, and that's sort of when they had taken notice of critical mass, and then really start cracking down after that pretty hard.
The Republican Party, that convention, they used also the critical mass as part of a protest. As they used it as a basically as an excuse, and they took part of critical mass right in New York, but they were basically pushing their propaganda with the convention, and or people opposing it, I think it was.
Right.
And that's why it got out of hand in New York, and maybe that's what the police were fearing here, that some other people would be doing the same.
It seems like I can hear him coming out of the thing. So, why don't we're gonna transition to another segment in the documentary. We Are Traffic. I call this one "Thanks for Waiting," and it talks about the issue of corking and sort of like keeping the ride together. And of course, in the beginning of Critical Mass, the rides were, started out 20, 30, 50, 100 people. After the first year, it was about 100 people. So the idea of like having people wait for one light cycle a minute obviously is different than what we have today, where if you have a bike ride that's 2,000 strong, it's a bit more of an inconvenience. But the people in San Francisco are really creative and came up with some really interesting solutions for dealing with this issue. So we're going to skip to that right about now. Can we fade up the video?
Which is where the whole corking concept started.
We're waiting for the phone to ring. Hopefully,
we would get off our bikes and stop right in front of the first car and talk to the people in the car. And usually, you could get a conversation going with them, and it was all it took, 2 minutes, one light usually, and everybody was passed. And if there was people honking in the background, it was kind of a problem. So we made signs that said "Thanks for waiting" on one side, and when the honking started, we turned it over on the other side and said, "Honk if you love bicycles."
So then, like, the whole string of cars, you could just see them all start laughing inside their cars, and then they just didn't care, because it was like the party was transferred, So we just all, like, start laughing at them, laughing at us, and it was a riot.
That's a much more effective way of making your political point, is to get people to actually change how they think, as opposed to merely, making them firm up in their hatred or anger for you being in their way, or asserting that your way of life is better than their way of life, or all those kind of issues that are essentially revolve around guilt and admonitions and bad feelings. No, all those things are mistakes, political mistakes. And if you go into those kind of emotional spaces, you're going to get predictable responses. And the trip about critical mass was absolutely to create an unexpected and predictable space with unpredictable consequences and unpredictable reactions, both for people in it and people outside of it. And that's probably a big part of the magic at the earliest points, was that worked so well right away. Basically, we came up with a lot of techniques, and they mostly worked pretty well. I mean, we had to deal with a lot of internal issues inside of the ride, too, like the kind of people who were attracted to coming. You certainly got a lot of young, angry men right away, people who were spoiling for a fight. We would characterize them as the testosterone brigade, because they would just be, these guys would come and they'd want to go and, have a big fight with people in their cars, or have a big fight with somebody, the cops or whoever. Not that they would actually do it. That was rarely the case. But it was a certain kind of antagonistic energy that they would bring to bear on the situation. And that was part of the reason we really were very focused on promoting it as a celebration and not as a protest. And so the people who brought their angry protest energy there were encouraged to take it elsewhere, or to just get into a different spirit.
First time I've ridden this thing.
Artistic people were kind of into critical mass, and then they had this venue as far as creativity and your own sense of advertising and how you wanted to put your message out there. And here's critical mass, and you can just kind of do it. It was just a great forum for communication on a really personal level.
Mobility is something very exciting, very rewarding. I mean, that's the way we devised to punish people, is to put them in a room and not allow them to move for years on end, in a prison. So moving about is super exciting. It's like one of the most exciting things. So therefore, to look at how a society chooses to move about within the realms of their territory is very revealing about, what type of society it is.
And today, it's the type of society where we're talking about critical mass here on Bike Talk on Kill Radio. We're going to try one more time to see if we can get the phone working. Hi, you're listening to Bike Talk. Can I hear you?
Hi, I'm calling as an avid fan. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You know what we're going to have to do? Just can you get her number and we'll call back? Okay. So sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties with our 30-year-old phone, which looks excellent, but it's due for a tune-up. So we're gonna do a workaround. I don't know, Manny, you want to say anything about some of the stuff we've been seeing on the video, We Are Traffic, or anything else?
I mean, it all is still relevant to what's going on with critical mass right now, and which is really funny because this is a video from a few years ago. It seems like quite a few years ago, and the issues they were dealing with are also the same type of issues that we are dealing with now. So. Going back to Joe Borfo's idea of having several rights, I think it's it's a positive thing for those who don't feel quite like having the police presence there, and I think that it's a good idea, and then we should all just converge in one location. Right, the critical mass right that's being escorted by the police, and we can all some will go with the route that's been provided to the police, some will not, and I think that should be fine.
So right now we're going to, we've got a caller on the line via phone.
Hi, who am I talking to?
Hi, I want to be anonymous. I'm from Laguna.
Okay.
I actually am calling as an avid listener. I listen every week when it's on the air, but unfortunately my computer's busted and I can't get online. So I just wanted a recap of what you guys have been talking about today and what you guys are going to talk about later, maybe.
Well, we actually have you live on the air right now, but we've been talking about the sort of the history and the current state of LA critical mass.
Great. Okay.
And we're just talking about some of the different things that have been going on. We have
is that the ride that's on like the first Friday of every month or something?
Last Friday of every month.
Okay,
and it starts at Wilshire and Western. The good news is that the ride is archived. I'm sorry.
Archived by
the
who?
ride is archived too, but the show is going to be archived. We're recording it right now, so it'll be archived on Kill Radio, and I believe it'll also be...
And I know it's on KPFK, right? Like on their podcast?
Correct. It'll also be archived on kpfk.org.
Cool. Okay. Well, I just wanted an update because I can't get to my computer, so when I do, I'll get the podcast from this week's show.
Great. Thanks a lot for calling in.
Thank you for having Bike Talk on the air.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, it looks like we got our phone working again. We got a little fan call. So, Manny, you were just talking about the idea of the ride kind of potentially splitting up and becoming a lot of different rides, and I agree with you. I think that's as fun as it is to ride in a really big group. I think that's kind of what we're really looking at. For this ride to be sustainable, is kind of I don't want to call it a factionalizing, but just sort of breaking up the ride, and it actually makes it more convenient. Why should somebody from the west side have to ride all the way to Wilshire Western to start the ride, or somebody coming from the valley, or somebody coming from East LA?
Yeah, and then this reflects, I don't know if you remember the days of Crank Mob and how they had, set destinations, at a certain time. The stop was going to be here, from this time to that time. And, half of the time people wouldn't start the ride at Venice, and then they would just join up as the ride went along. And I remember a couple times I didn't make it to the start of the ride, and I would be just riding around, going to to the stop, And I would run into little groups of riders and just ride along with them, and go to the desk to the next stop. Even though we were not with the big mass, eventually we would end up all together. And I think that philosophy also would work for us. Like I said, some people do not appreciate the presence of the police and in critical mass. Therefore there should be other rides that that are not paraded around by the police.
Manny, did you make it out to this year's All City Toy Ride? Oh, got another call coming in. Let's see if who we got on the line. Flip it. Okay. You're talking to Bike Talk on Kill Radio. You're live on the air.
Hey, is it Patrick?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, dude? It's Mark.
Mark, hey, thanks a lot for calling in. So have you been listening this morning?
I have static and all kinds of...
A lot of adventures this morning, kind of like a critical mass ride.
Yeah.
A little bit of static, a little bit of fun.
Except it doesn't hurt. Pretty easy.
So what do you want to talk to us about this morning?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I haven't heard of the entire, from the beginning. I heard pieces here and there, and I don't know if you guys delved into, I think what's kind of the core issue when it comes to the principled aspects of critical mass, which is we think there's particular principles that apply to it. And so, for example, I don't know if this analogy is going to make sense, but I'm drinking coffee right now, and suppose, we have the general label of coffee, which might be the equivalent of, a bike ride, like Manny's alluding to, like there's different rides, and we talk about it in this sort of general sense. But then if I'm going to put the label organic coffee, that coffee has to have a particular,
certification.
Has to be made in a particular way. It can't have preservatives or whatnot in it to be organic. So you can't, in some sense, label a ride critical mass while it has particular artificial ingredients, i.e. LAPD or route or whatnot, or can it? And I think that's, sort of really what's at issue with the argument is whether or not we're talking about labels and whether a certain label can apply to a bike ride. And if we want to just sort of talk about it loosely and say, hey, we got all these rides, here's the format or whatnot, then it's a bike ride, but is it critical mass? And I think that's sort of, the thing to wrestle with, and what principles actually do apply, or if any,
I think, there's a really, we've been playing segments from the documentary We Are Traffic throughout the show. And one of there's a great quote nestled somewhere in there, and it's one of the early organizers talking about like that he would just be on the ride, and somebody in a car would say, hey, what is this? And it's like he'd say, oh, this is critical mass, and he'd start describing it. And, the organizer or the early, kind of founder was saying, half the time I didn't really agree with what they were saying, but I was just so excited the fact that they felt a sense of ownership over it, that they kind of felt like they knew what it was, and that they kind of had a personal stake in it. So I think, with all things in the world, I think, our greatest weakness can also be our greatest strength, and vice versa. And one of the things that's really beautiful about critical mass is it really is sort of this viral thing that doesn't belong to anybody, but then we do have a lot of individuals just kind of, putting in their own, kind of putting their own ideals on top of it. And I should say that that's one of I obviously don't have all the answers, and I don't think that the documentary We Are Traffic necessarily has all the answers. The Wikipedia page doesn't have all the answers, but I think that having these kind of conversations is crucial because a lot of new people are coming out to critical mass, and it's great for people to at least have some kind of a historical background for, with to kind of form an opinion.
Right. I mean, but what then in your mind is the difference between, sort of doing a public forum on LACM as opposed to, say, the second Friday, Midnight Riders Ride, where you're talking about, people just coming out and having a good time or whatever. And it happens on various rides, but it seems like critical mass was supposed to have some kind of, in some sense, principles behind it outside of, partying and whatnot, like a Second Friday ride would. So a kid coming to critical mass, you might think was supposed to experience particular elements to it, and are they still getting it? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think honestly, especially when you listen to the words of the people that really were the instigators behind the original critical mass, they definitely had some political ideals, but really at the core of it, they wanted to emphasize a celebration on bike and to get people out riding bicycles. And that was really at the core of what they were interested in. I think that from our historic perspective, when critical mass, when it started, it was the only bike ride, and as it spread, I think a lot of people put a lot of different ideas into what they thought it should be or how it would be distinct from other bike rides. But when it started, there wasn't other bike rides. Now, from our historical perspective, in Los Angeles, we have Midnight Ride is going for 6 years. We have rides that have come and gone. We have rides like Crank Mob and Wolfpack, and all these other different rides are happening. We have tons of ride crews. This year's All City Toy Ride, we had 15 different rides, most of them hosted by individual bicycle crews, originating from different parts of the city. Some rival bike crews too. There was 2 bike rides that started in downtown. So I guess what I'm saying is that now that there's all these individual bike rides, they have a very distinct flavor, and that's something that we would compare against to what our notion of critical mass is. Whereas when critical mass started, it was the bike ride, and I think that really the founders of that ride, really their emphasis overall was just to get people riding bikes in the city.
Yeah, so, okay, cool, man. I'm not going to take too much of time. I think my last point was just going to be then, if that were the case, then I don't see what the whole qualm is with LACM and what reason there would be to do an alternative or to sort of start pushing alternative rides if we're just going to sort of say, hey, at the end of the day, it's just about getting on bikes and whatnot. So, but, I'm with it, man, and you guys are,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's a great point. I don't know if Manny wants to speak to that at all, but, my personal opinion is the more the merrier. If there's something we can do to get more people out on the road and, having fun on their bicycle, I think it's better. And if critical mass isn't serving the needs of all the bike riders, maybe it's a great thing that there's, some alternate rides for people to go on. I'm gonna let Manny, respond to that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with you. I mean, the whole point of critical mass is to get people out on a bicycle. And, personally, I mean, you would assume, I mean, especially me, I'm very strong about, the police presence at our rides. Unfortunately, we had, yeah, I mean, I have to, we just have to deal with it, and the point is to get people out riding, for cars to notice that we have the right to be out on the road on a big mass, and that we have the right to be on the streets. The streets were originally built for carriages and bicycles, and we own the streets are ours, and that's what we were trying to get across. And hopefully the fact that there's alternate rides will not make the ride disappear or anything, but I really doubt it will. I think it's actually going to make it better. And as Pat pointed out, I mean, one great example of this was the toy drive that, all these rides converged on one location, and then we rode from there. So basically, I think the same approach should be taken towards critical mass. Unfortunately, due to the events that have happened, I really doubt that the police presence is going to go away. And like I said, I'm not happy with it at all, especially me. But we have to deal with it. So, things are not like they were, 20 years ago when, critical mass started in San Francisco, or no, where was it? At Seattle, right? San Francisco, right? So, we have to, times change, and, this right is changing.
MD2, thanks a lot for calling in.
Thanks, dude. Can you give a shout out to Shy Girl? I love you, baby.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon. And if you want to argue with MD2, you can always find him on the Midnight Riders Forum. He will talk mad shit to you, no matter what your opinion is. So right now we're going to transition to another clip from We Are Traffic, and this is actually is great because it gets to a lot of the things that Mark was just talking about. So here we go.
In 1991, before critical mass, there were not that many bikes out there, and today there are so many. And any given day you go to Market Street, you're going to see clots of 10 to 20 to 30 bikes riding by during the rush hour in either direction, routinely, absolutely normal every day. And that's going to influence anybody, child or adult's sense of the city and its possibilities. And a lot of people have taken the critical mass experience as an instigation to get on a bike. I know dozens and dozens of people who I've met personally who said, thanks to critical mass, I started riding, and this is great. I've saved tons of money. I'm having a great time. I met new people. I have a whole different life. And it's changed people's lives in a really tangible way, on a very concrete sense, on a day-to-day level. And I think that's fantastic. That's as much as we could hope for. Tomorrow we can hope for more. But today, that's as good as it gets. And that's pretty good.
So another great little segment from We Are Traffic. Excellent film. I'm trying to remember the name of the filmmaker here. You can find We Are Traffic on Google Video. It's about 50 minutes long, and it really is the definitive documentary on critical mass. I don't know, Manny, you want to add anything else?
I don't know. Like I said, I think the direction that critical mass is taking right now is actually, I think that the direction that critical mass is taking is fine. I mean, we have to, we're going to have to deal with the presence of the police there, and those who don't appreciate it, there's alternate rides, and you should take part of those. And I think, there should be a way where all the rides will converge at some point, maybe, back to the way it was before. Basically, there's nothing we can do about the police presence at this moment, but the critical mass is, it's still there. So for those who still want to be there, the ride is always still happening.
Hello.
You're on Bike Talk Live.
Hi. This is Alex and Mary from Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition.
Alex, it's great to hear you. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
So we've been talking about LA critical mass and the current state. We've been listening to some samples from We Are Traffic, the LA critical mass documentary. I know that you have some other topics you wanted to get into, but did you have anything you wanted to say about critical mass?
I think it's actually, my only comments on it are pretty basic. I think it's a great method for people to get comfortable with riding out in the streets and getting comfortable with riding around their neighborhoods and getting to know how to basically use their bicycle as an everyday means of transportation. It's almost like a gateway drug in itself to entering the world of cycling, and then people can just take it from there. They can continue to do the social rides if they want, or they could go on to other forms of cycling. But it's just a great social way to get people out there, and I encourage it. I think it's a great way. As long as there's no kind of altercations with motorists, it's all good.
Hey Alex, this is Nick. I wanted to try something with the phone here, some new technology.
All right.
So could you just bear with us if we hang up and you can call right back?
Sure.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, and we have to turn the mics up, right?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Clear?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can hang up. Or should I not even try it?
Try and hang up.
Can you still hear?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's great.
It's finally working.
All right. So can we talk to you about what's going on with the LACBC?
Yeah. Well, the biggest kind of news that coming up is towards the end of our 2010 years, we're having a fundraising event on December 28th. This kind of helps us, in a sense, get by through the end of the year. Towards the end of like the fall and winter months, there's very little fundraising for nonprofits, especially for cycling organizations, because there's not much going on. So this kind of helps the coalition continue to exist in 2011. And we have, the event is a evening or a whole day at the Library Ale House in Santa Monica, off of Main Street. And all day, no matter what you eat or drink, 15% of all the receipts will go towards the Los Angeles County Bicycle Coalition. And at the end of the evening, we're going to have a raffle. You have to be present to win, but we have some amazing sponsors who've given mind-blowing products for us to raffle off. We have 2 bikes. One of them is a Dahone folding bike. Another one is a ultra-exclusive Torelli Tipo Uno, which is a kind of a track bike with some good street geometry, so you could take it both at the velodrome, but also for your commute. It even has fenders. That's being raffled off. We have some GPS systems from Helen's that are being raffled off, stuff from Patagonia, REI, even fitness memberships from 220 Fitness, which is just down the road from Library Ale House. And so it's turning out to be like a pretty amazing event.
Yeah.
And apparently, from what I've heard, I'm not a huge beer drinker, but the beer list that they're bringing out for our special event at the Library Ale House is phenomenal. All my beer aficionado friends are kind of drooling at the list that I've sent them. It's pretty interesting.
That's great. You know, we're going to have a Bike Talk benefit on the 15th of January, so if we can figure out how to get some of those prizes and donor stuff, that would be great.
Yeah, asking is kind of like the best way to go about it, really. Just go ahead and be bold, go up to someone and see what happens.
So,
you have nothing to lose.
So the 28th, and so how are you guys doing as as an organization? You're
well, we've had a very successful 2010. Our staff has been hard at work, both in the office, working on the more logistics parts and getting kind of the entire coalition and all of its regional groups moving as a cohesive unit, but also showing up to local city council meetings and meetings with various institutions that are involved in the major bike infrastructure issues throughout LA County. So we have some successes. The bike plan was recently approved, which is a fantastic news. We've had one of our biggest ever LA River Rides, which is kind of a great event for not only highlighting the LA River Path, which graces most of LA County, but also getting people out there and experiencing a great fundraising event which exposes people to different forms of cycling, and everyone's involved, everyone's riding together. It's a good family event. We've had lots of kids rides to get kids encouraged out there. There's kind of like a discontinuum in the United States of kids enjoying their bikes when they're young, and then as soon as they turn 16, they all of a sudden get a car, which is a bit frustrating. So, the more kids rides we have that encourage families as a whole to ride together, we could kind of start shaping our future society to be more bike-centric or open to the idea of using bikes as transportation or exercise methods and means, rather than resorting to a car as soon as a car is available to use. And so we've had a lot of different successes, and we're kind of pulling together in a list right now that we're going to send out to our email list, if anybody's on that will highlight all of the successes we've had.
I think on that note, that trend's going to take a turn because you see, I remember growing up, I always wanted a car. My parents were always thinking, okay, we're going to get you a car when you're growing up. Due to the economy nowadays, the people cannot afford to get a car. So they're thinking, hey, I want to get you a bike. And, a lot of and I'm serious, a lot of the teenagers I know, they don't even have, they're not even aiming right now to get a car. That everybody is, thinking bicycles, and I think that's great. I think that's going to be a positive aspect of this change in our economy at the moment.
Yeah, and as long as we can encourage all forms of cycling, so it's not just one type or the other. So when people think about bikes, they don't just think about means of transportation, or they don't just think about, like, for example, for fitness purposes or competitive purposes. They kind of think about everything as a whole. And I'd really like to see the point where, we become like many European societies or other societies around the world, even China, where you can ask people who ride bikes on a daily basis and they don't consider themselves cyclists. They just say, oh, I use the bike because that's how I get around. And I think that's kind of a critical point that we need to get to. Hopefully, we'll see.
Well, I think it's dual. I think we have a certain role that we're all sort of involved in trying to make cycling fun and get more people on the road. But really, what it's going to come down to is changing the infrastructure, because 100 years ago, 1 out of every 4 trips were made by bicycle.
Yes.
And right now we're probably like, I don't know, maybe 2% of trips are made by bike. And I think, I talk to lots and lots of people, and they really cite, even people that are avid bike riders, that they say that they would ride more if they felt safer on the street.
Yeah, it does. The problem that we're facing is it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, where a lot of advocates out there who, in all honesty, don't really get their hands dirty, but they just kind of speak. They're continually wanting better infrastructure, but the issue behind that kind of stems from that is the infrastructure won't be developed unless the people making those decisions see numbers out there. And the only way to encourage people to ride is to kind of create a better atmosphere and expose people to cycling. Even though the infrastructure is bad right now, it can only improve if there's the numbers behind the reason to do it. Because right now the cars outnumber cyclists. And unfortunately, that's kind of, despite the environmental impact and despite everything else, politicians and the people behind infrastructure, they tend to favor whatever will keep them in the job. What keeps them in a job is purely numbers. There's more cars out there, so then they tend to do a 405 expansion project, thinking more about car issues than cycling issues, for example. So yes, we do need to continually push for infrastructure changes, and that is never going to stop, and that needs to continually be pushed. But at the same time, one of the most critical long-term things and long-term successes that anybody can do is to just simply encourage more people to ride all the time. That is kind of something that people forget about. It's a very fundamental thing that needs to happen, because without that, we won't have the numbers in the future to make better infrastructure. So despite people being afraid of the infrastructure is really bad, it's you have to kind of keep going and it's an uphill battle at first, but eventually the tide will turn and we'll reach that point at the bell curve where things will be a lot easier to change infrastructure-wise, because urban planners who are going to school will be riding to school on their bikes. The mayors or whoever else is in the office will look and say, oh, all my constituents are riding bikes. I should do things for them. So I kind of want to emphasize more the fundamental aspects of just getting people out there and riding bikes. That's more important at this time, I think, for longer-term success. But that's my personal take.
Well, and I think that kind of takes us full circle to these the grassroots social bike rides that have been going on for the last, really heavily for the last 6 years in LA. Midnight Riders, Ride Arc, Crank Mob. Mom Rides, all these rides that really just get people out on the road and sort of demonstrate that it really is doable, and you can safely ride your bike on the road if you learn how to assert yourself and make the space.
Right, definitely. And then infrastructure will come after that. The problem we face in the United States is, unlike a lot of the countries we try at least to compare ourselves to, the streets here were not designed for people, and they were not designed for bikes. They were designed for cars. Streets in Europe were originally designed for horse and carriage and bikes and people, not cars at all. So inherently, they've made it more difficult to own a car in the 2000s or whatever millennium we are in now, and in the future in those areas. However, in the United States, kind of as cities developed and we had so much room, they were emphasized both on a architectural scale, but also in a urban planning sense for cars, because it was a faster means of transport.
Well, I would say that a lot of the older cities like metropolitan LA, San Francisco and New York, a lot of these cities actually were originally designed with horse and carriage and people in mind, but they've been redesigned and kind of like cars have been shoved into them. Yeah, but yes, in a sense, but this is like a whole other larger issue with urban planning, and in the sense that we had so much space in the United States as a whole, and if you look at the geographies of at least Southern California, there's so much horizontality available that developers took that opportunity, and despite some of the original older towns and areas having slimmer streets, because there was so much other available space, they developed other communities in other areas and eventually connected them by, of course, larger streets. Orange County is kind of like a modern-day example of this. Smaller areas such as San Francisco, which have more hilly terrain and don't allow the horizontality. If you look at the Bay Area, outside of the peninsula, basically in every direction you head, there's a mountain range which prevents a horizontality. Here, we don't really have that. We have the Hollywood Hills, which dips and curves away, so you can open up to East LA or go over a shorter area, the Sepulveda Pass, and open up into the valley. And then once you actually head into the mountains of Malibu, Ventura is completely distinct and separated from LA County, which has enabled itself to become kind of like a petri dish of developments that have come together and have large streets. So it's a multitude of factors which have led itself into having streets more oriented towards cars here, and unfortunately it's a little bit, well past when those streets were developed, that cycling is now becoming more prevalent in the United States. So it is more of an uphill battle to kind of say, okay, we just want to change the way things are all of a sudden. But the more numbers we have out there, like you said, through grassroots methods, or just, even within a family, encouraging children to ride their bikes more, I can see in a future where our city planners and everything else will be thinking more car and pedestrian-oriented streets and density rather than larger, expanded horizons of endless cement highways of cars. Well, what's interesting is I feel like traffic jams are becoming the new mountains. Because for me personally, I really don't drive that much because traffic and parking is so bad, and a lot of times, most of my business, whether by car or by bike, I usually keep it within 5 or 6 miles of where I live. So
it is, and that is actually, that's a fortunate, but I'm not sure if it's rare or I don't think it's very prevalent. Could be kind of like an average case, but I definitely know that most of the people I deal with in my working relationships and where I work, everybody, unfortunately, for various reasons, lives quite far from where they work, well beyond 6 miles. My commute, even though I bike most of the time if I can, is 26 miles each way. And I can say it like an old man, uphill both directions, because I have to climb over mountains in both ways. It's a lot easier for some people than others, but it's kind of like we're dealing. It's almost a situation where we're dealing with what we didn't think were mistakes in development over the years and decades, and are now kind of mistakes in the way we moved as a society, and now we have to kind of deal with them and overcome them in some ways. If you're fortunate enough to have a commute then less than 6 miles, I encourage everyone to bike as much as they can. If there's any trips less than 6 miles, even to the grocery store or whatever you have to take, there's so many different methods to use your bicycle and reduce traffic. And of course, you don't have to park or pay for parking or any of that stuff.
Alex.
Yes.
Did you say 26 miles each way?
Yes.
Every day?
3 days a week. It's a part-time on-call position that supplements my freelance work.
So, where are you coming from?
I live in Brentwood and I work in Pasadena.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And
the only problem with that is sometimes when I'm scheduled to work, and in the past few weeks when I'm leaving work at 11 p.m. and in Pasadena at 11 p.m., you're not only tired from work, but it's also about 40 degrees. So the possible ride back just became not worth it at that point. But when I have better working hours at this place, it's actually really nice. I love it. I love the 26 miles, or rather, it's like 52 in the end of the day. But it's nice. It's perfect.
Well, I think another part of this, too, is going to be recouping our train system, which was ripped out in the 50s.
Yes, definitely.
Because trains and bikes link up together so great.
Yeah.
I would have taken the bike and the train together today to get to the station, except I live about 3 blocks from the Red Line, and Kill Radio is fantastically about like 500 feet from the entrance to the Red Line station.
That is perfect. I mean, everything is kind of interrelated. This is the way I think about things. Nothing is necessarily distinct from each other if you want to find solutions. Everything's a more holistic approach. And one of them is, I think, encouraging designers, both from everything from graphic to like architectural designers, to design more on human scales and exert themselves as a designer, hoping for a better change for the future rather than what simply the developer or the client wants. You have to, hold on to whatever balls or ovaries you have and work really hard to kind of exert a better future. And that is to say, okay, if you're going to do signage, put it on more on a human scale and an approachable scale from either a bike or pedestrian method rather than just cars. And what you'll end up doing in the long term is you'll encourage pedestrian and human scale infrastructure such as trains and better walkways and bikeways to actually be built in that area. One of the issues when people look at an area and they're going to vote whether to expand something for highways or even pedestrian, they actually look for subconscious cues. And these small cues can be things such as signage. Sometimes when people look at Lincoln Boulevard in Santa Monica, or even the Venice area, it's a highway, it's run by Caltrans, but all the signage is on a scale that's built for cars at speeding by at 40 miles per hour and looking for large signs. If you're a pedestrian on that area, the street lighting is a little bit too high. It's not really comfortable to be there. If you start encouraging businesses to do that and to have human scale entrances, pathways, lighting, and signage, everything will come together in itself, and you're kind of making a change in one area to encourage other change that is related to it. So everything needs to be encouraging change, and designers, I think, might be the source, unfortunately, of a lot of the issues we have.
As you're saying this, we're staring out the window at a 30-foot tall billboard for Yogi Bear in 3D.
There you go. there you go. This is a clear example, and it seems like a small thing, but the people who are unfortunately making all the decisions towards change, they're thinking on these larger scales because they're seeing all this all the time, and you want to kind of encourage that. But if on a smaller scale, if there's any designers or anyone out there to just make human scale projects, eventually smaller human scale streets will follow, and human scale communities, and you're going to have a beautiful future, I can imagine. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. And I think you guys are going to call in try to call in every week, right? Somebody?
I'll see. I think the staff is mostly handling that, but for sure, I'm on the board of directors. I would definitely encourage everyone who's listening to please come out December 28th, any day, any time from 11 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. at the Library Ale House in Santa Monica. There's going to be Bike Valet provided by Santa Monica Spoke, a regional chapter of the LACBC. 15% of all your receipts will go to the LACBC and Santa Monica Spoke. And we're having an amazing raffle. Like for $1, you could win a bike. That's absolutely amazing. So
an electric
bike,
right?
Please come out. Yeah, please come out December 28th.
I just wanted to say we should bid a fond farewell to Arisha.
Yeah, definitely.
Who just retired from LACBC.
Yeah.
But I saw her yesterday at her going away party, and she gave me a hug and said, now we can work together both as volunteers. So that was kind of exciting. Like
That's fantastic.
She's just making more room in her life to move on to new things, but she's definitely going to stick with us.
Yeah, she will definitely be missed. We've had her as a board member at first and then staff, and she became the face of LACBC. And, you know, she was definitely there throughout our entire growth. She has been the name that people associated most with our email lists, and it's a fantastic time she's had here, and it's very sad to see her go, but at the same time, very positive, and I encourage her to pursue her dreams and see what she can make out of her studies. It's gonna be a bright future for her. So all the best.
And if anybody's seen the Give Me 3 posters that are all around Los Angeles, she was really an integral part at making that come to life. I mean, she was really the keystone. A lot of us put work in on that, but she was really the one that kind of like made sure it kept going.
Yeah, and those are beautiful posters, which, by the way, signed and autographed. We're going to be raffling 3 of them off, signed and autographed by the artist, who is an award-winning artist.
And also the mayor, right, is signed those as well?
I am not sure if the mayor is going to sign those, but I'm hoping.
I think he already did. And
really?
Yeah, because they were first signed by Mayor Villaraigosa, and then Jeff McFetrich, who did the design, really phenomenal graphic designer. He signed them as well.
It's an amazing piece. I'm hoping to get one of my own autographed ones, but we'll see. 3 of them will be raffled off on December 28th at the Library at a House.
Okay.
How much are those raffle tickets?
The raffle tickets are $2 each. However, if you get 20, they're $1 each. So
sounds
kind
like
of
a bargain.
encouraging people to. Yeah, it's a total bargain. And you must be present to win those, so you might as well just drink some beer. Bike Valet is provided. Don't worry about that. And it's going to be fantastic.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Alex.
You're welcome.
And,
Have
we'll
a
see
great
you there.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we got 5 minutes.
So
less. I think we're good.
So you've been listening to, this is Patrick Miller. I'm special guesting today. Really grateful that Nick let us have a special day here to talk about LA Critical Mass. We just had a great conversation with Alex Emery from the LA County Bicycle Coalition. Special thanks to Manny's Car Wash in the house, citizen journalist who was tackled and roughed up by the cops for documenting police brutality on May's LA Critical Mass ride here in Los Angeles. Thanks so much. If you want to, I'm hoping we can, continue this conversation in 2011, because Critical Mass really does belong to the people of Los Angeles, and it really is you, who take an interest in Critical Mass who are going to shape the future of it. There's a lot of great energy right now, and, I think that, while there is some contentiousness, I think that what we're going to see in the long run is that, a lot of different people are putting out a lot of positive energy and great ideas, and this is really gonna push Critical Mass into the next decade. And I think Critical Mass, that this is like kind of a growing pain, like a little birthing pain, and we're gonna see a whole new Critical Mass in 2011. It's kind of exciting. Any last comments you want to make, Manny?
Sure. Just want to say that I hope to see everybody out there for the next Critical Mass. Whoever like me, I'm not going out of town, so I gotta be working on ironically I gotta be working on my car wash project. So Manny's Car Wash should be opening soon, and a real car wash is over in Hillside Village near Alhambra on Valley Boulevard, and. So I can't get out of town. I can't spend money on vacations or anything. So I'll be here in town, and hopefully I hope to see everybody who's listening out there join us in the ride this 31st, I believe, right, or the 30th.
Yeah, Critical Mass is going to be on December 31st, New Year's Eve, and I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a lot of people just riding all night long. And right now, a lot of people from Midnight Riders are planning to go up to San Francisco for San Francisco's New Year's Eve Critical Mass. So if you want to get out of town, that's another great alternative to go check out the original Critical Mass in San Francisco, 18 years running. Should be a great time for everyone. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
And so kpfk.org, livebiketalk@gmail.com, and we'll talk to you next week.